mystic, romantic. That includes logical, esoteric thinking.
A large dimension journey. Let's travel in as many dimensions as possible, visually, to see how many there can be. Imagine dimension 0, like a simple point, neither more nor less. To get to the next dimension, we add a point, with a line in between, as a direction. As when calculating mathematics. Dimension 1. To get dimension 2, you just add 2 points as you drag a line between, and it is therefore described as 2 directions. One can get, up down, and right left. It can be described as a flat paper figure where there is no deep inside. Or as a Nintendo platform game that everyone plays for several hours, every day in the 80s and the 90s. Where depth is missing. Dimension 2. If one add 2 points with one direction, from here and away, then you get the depths, room, as we lives in. Dimension 3. You need a time concept to assess how long it takes to go to the store and back again. Thanks to the astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson, time looks like a memory, to remember something photographically.
1.5 hand clap to him.
Dimension 4, time. Dimension 5, the radio transmitter. Now it may start to be complicated. Considering that everything in this world is built up of neutrons and protons, and magnetic electricity binds together several neutrons and protons into matter. There is 90% nothing in between this. It's perceived as matter, only for us, in our vibration signal, but it's not really matter. This 90% is nothing, it's not real. Imagine that this physical world, this vibration, is a radio signal. Other radio signals are made of other varieties than neutrons and protons as a magnetic electricity binds to another kind of material, that can only be perceived as matter when you have the vibration that the other radio signal has. Usually most people only perceive one radio signal at the time, only one physical world, at the time. But it is only when an object leaves all its neutrons and protons, leaving away its physical constituent, and suddenly it is only of magnetic electricity, a consciousness that cannot affect physical matter, but is still there. Then it can be detected that there are many radio signals. It is easy to believe that this radio signal is a complicated simulator, a sufficiently complicated computer game that it looks like a real world. Considering that matter can be transformed into information, in black holes. When opening a picture in a writing program and getting a code, and information.
Please learn the code, and you can make gold of air, if you want.
But isn't that to make a glitch in the system?
When one sounds like this. Another sounds like this. Another sounds like this. And one sounds like this. It is completely possible to connect with other radio signals, and mentally move to other signals that one does not belong to.
If a human is on a wrong radio signal, he or she may look like a half-transparent gray mass.
You can also send energy boosts to someone else, which probably has to travel through another radio signal, but time does not move in the same way in different radio signals, and therefore can meet your target, sometimes before sending it. There used to be 7 of them.
Why do you say that there used to be 7 of them?
I will explain it, soon. Where can you possibly get forward, with this point of view? But imagine that these radio signals are included in an entire timeline. But it's a timeline where the time traveler already lives in a world where the change did happen. If the time traveler travels back in time and try to change the story.
But try to travel back in time and prevent your younger self from traveling back in time? Then one would cease to exist, but who then prevented your younger self?
But by traveling back in time and changing the story, have we created a new timeline, which becomes the current one, and the old timeline should disappear. A new view of dimensions, Dimension 6. The main character then travels forward to his time period. The new timeline's main character travels backward and disappears for a similar reason, so the old timeline's main character can take the missing space. Because there is only one main timeline. Asterisk in parentheses. Perhaps there is a timeline where Trump became the president, but the line if it is timelines or alternative versions, is unclear.
Perhaps there is a version where each man and woman have swapped side with each other?
How about, suddenly there are two timelines, for no reason. Where one has had its heavy metal era in the 80s, a punk era that's still alive, and a rave techno culture that also is still alive today, with 7 radio signals. Another completely different timeline has never had any punk era at all, and the heavy metal era began, instead at the 2000s, which then continued in a mystic romantic shape. Where the rave techno culture died out completely, in the mid-90s, with 8 radio signals, where the hardlonic world is the 8-1, and some other minor differences.
Dimension 7, alternative realities mean that all choices everyone has made has created alternative realities depending on the number of choices, one for right and one for the left, one for yes and one for no, and so on. Therefore, a field of view, where all timelines suddenly become equally important, not just the main timeline. Imagine this with all possible timelines, as an infinity, the one unite.
Dimension 8.
Then there must be other infinities,
which includes all other Big Bang inflations,
with different speed of light,
different size,
different gravity,
and different density, etc., etc., etc.
But does not need to start at the same time.
Like a sea, as a one unite.
But would other C with all other Big Bang inflations actually be any different?
Thanks for watching and listening.